Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Joe Cutter Diving. Welcome you to yet another Cutter Top 10 video. Today we are going to be looking at the top 10 Canadian golfers of all time. We're in the Maple Leaf and all that. Not on purpose, but like, it's Canadian, it's golfing and all that. I might as well just wear this. So we have 10 of the best Canadian golfers of all time. Number 10 is Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor is an up and coming golfer, kind of like Corey Connors, that in the 2020s he's competing. But Nick Taylor has won a few tournaments, including the famous RBC Canadian Open title in 2023, in which a Canadian had not won a championship since 1954. Well, at the Canadian Opens, that'd be Pat Fletcher. Nick Taylor made a few key putts and then went to a 4-hole playoff with Tommy Fleetwood. Well, it was sudden death, but anyway, on the fourth playoff hole, a 68-foot putt from Nick Taylor, he somehow finessed it into the cup and Canada exploded. As Nick Taylor won the 2023 RBC Canadian Open. Number 9 is Lori Kane, who is a great Canadian women's golfer, winning 4 times on the LPGA Tour, countless contributions. Lori King at times was known as being a bridesmaid but never a bride. She has had several second place finishes on tour, but only won 4 titles. She's been a role model and mentor for aspiring Canadian female golfers and played her heart out. Number 8 is David Hearn. He's been a mainstay on the PGA Tour for over a decade, many top 10 finishes, and like Mike Weir, he was runner-up at the Canadian Open. In 2015, it was close. I can't remember who won it. Anyway, he's admired for his sportsmanship and dedication to representing Canada internationally, and I think he's been on a few President's Cup teams. Of course, that's the international version of the Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup is U.S. versus Europe, but the President's Cup is U.S. versus international, non-Europe. Number 6 is a mainstay on the AHD golf circuit, and his name is Al Balding. He actually won 4 PGA Tour victories and was the first Canadian to win an event in the United States. Usually when a Canadian wins, they win at home at the Canadian Open. But Al Baldwin became the first Canadian to win an event in the United States. He had consistency, paving the way for future generations of Canadian golfers, and he knew what he had to do. Number 5 also is a Canadian mainstay on the ASG Golf Tour, and his name is Mo Norman. Mo Norman was known as one of the greatest ball strikers in golf history. He had a unique swing and legendary accuracy, captivated fans and fellow professionals alike. He would spend a lot of his career on the Canadian Tour, but his influence on the game is widely recognized by golfing legends around the world. But there's more to Mo Norman than you think. All that. He had accuracy and all that, shot after shot. He was a genius, although he didn't really do much. He won 65 Canadian Tour events. Yeah. Was inducted and all that. Unfortunately for Mo, yeah, he wasn't really much on the PGA Tour and all that. So, anyway, Norman actually was self-taught and never took a golf lesson. But he has eccentricities and all that. He did appear in the Masters twice by invitation because of the fact that he won a few events. Unfortunately, though, he didn't make it through the Masters and all that. So anyway, he actually did play briefly on the PGA Tour, but because of shyness and the fact that certain pros would bully him, he played primarily in Ontario and all that. So anyway, he actually took fourth for the 1959 New Orleans Open. Then PGA officials gave Norman a dressing down. They didn't like his eccentric behavior. They didn't like the fact that he refused to use the caddy and would wear shoddy clothes. Norman vowed not to come back to the United States because of the PGA's attitude. The prices were lower, but the fact of the matter is that Norman kind of did not like how the Americans treated his stuff and all that. He was actually living in poverty, mostly because, the prices were much lower in the PGA, I mean, in the Canadian Open. He actually lived above a bar and in a kitchen motel. I would actually spend many times. Right, and, he slept in his car or in sand traps. He actually wore long sleeve shirts in any weather, even if it was warm, but into his gin, and his pants did not fit well. He had a rapid playing style and all that. Yeah, he was known as golf's Rain Man because he had his numbers memory. He was able to recite 375 courses, the exact hole yardages and all that. All that. He used a 9 iron off the tee and would do pretty well and all that. You know, he was an icon and all that in Canada, all that. He died in Kitchener Hospital in 2004 from congestive heart failure. So, anyway, yeah, he was great and all that. But of course, you know how the American attitudes are. Well, the main reason why I'm portraying Mo Norman because he's from Kitchener, like yours truly, and has eccentricities like yours truly. Anyway, number 4 is Sandra Post, the first Canadian to play on the LPGA Tour, of course, ladies PGA Tour, the first Canadian woman to win a major. At that, she won the 1968 LPGA Championship. She won 7 other tournaments in her career. So she was the leader in not just LPGA Tour victories, but victories by Canadian on an American tour, no matter what, even with the men. She was there. But yeah, Sandra Post was big. She did her commentary a lot for CTV, and that was great. Number 3 is George Knudsen. George Knudsen also is part of the ASG golf thing. Was a trailblazer in Canadian golf during the 60s and 70s, winning 8 PGA Tour events, the most by a Canadian male. He was renowned for a smooth swing in golf instruction, and Knudsen's legacy lives on in Canadian golf lore and, of course, in ASG golf. Number 2 is Brooke Henderson. She's taken Canadian golf to new heights in the women's game and the men's game too because of all her victories. She's won the most tour wins, male or female. She even won the PGA Championship in 2016 and a couple of Canadian Opens. She's the most successful Canadian golfer on the LPGA Tour. She has a consistent performance and a charismatic presence. And you can't beat that because Brooke Henderson just knew how to swing a golf club. And number 1 is the man who gave Canadians something to hope for when he won the Masters, Mike Weir. 8 PGA Tour victories, a storied career representing Canada in international competitions, including the President's Cup. Like I said, the international version of the Ryder Cup. He did quite well. He is the first and only Canadian male to win a men's world championship, major championship, and that was the 2003 Masters when he shocked everyone by getting to a playoff with Len Matisse and then winning when Matisse screwed up. Weir got the green jacket north of the border, first Canadian to win the Masters. In fact, Weir's win also was big because it was the first time since Bob Charles in 1963 that a left-hander won a major championship. Usually it was always righties, but the lefties were left out. Bob Charles was the only lefty to win a major for many years, and then Mike Weir tied that mark. And then, oddly enough, the next year Phil Mickelson won the Masters. So, he was bringing it up for left-handed golfers. And, I'm not a lefty, I'm a righty, but, it's great and all that. But anyway, Canadian golf has just been very fun. Don't you think? Anyhow, I'm just I'm going to do.